throw a bunch of food in the trash. Let's not have an economy that efficiently filters in money into productive parts of our economy. Our enemies probably love this stuff. All right, so now it's the defense of your vote, but in a different way, a more sacred way. You're always talking about this stuff. You're such a capitalist. So when you have to pay for things, you psychologically act differently. You're more selective. You support the products that are good. What are you ultimately doing? Your purchase is a vote for that company. When you decide that you're going to get Yoo-hoo rather than Nesquick, that's a vote for Yoo-hoo. That's a vote that says we want Yoo-hoo to stay in business. They're the best chocolate milk. So your dollars every day are in a way a sacred way of voting each day for I support Alani energy drinks. I support Red Bull. No. It's all about Prime. What about Ghost? Hey, you can vote with your dollars however you want. You can support the firms that you want. And in doing so, this vote creates a pretty productive economy. And when you support Alani, it hurts Prime, and maybe Prime won't exist someday. Only the strong survive. We will get the best energy drink ever. And you can see they're always in competition. They're in competition for that vote, for that dollar that you have. And they're always adding new things, new labels, new flavors. That is competition. That is a free market. If there was an energy drink that was supported by the government, a government subsidy, it would never change. Doesn't have to. We're always going to get that free money. We can keep making the same terrible product. Doesn't have any labeling, just one flavor, pretty basic, pretty plain. Oh, that would never exist. You're silly. You're exaggerating things. Oh, it does exist. Energy drinks are competing against each other. You can see all these crazy different cans, all these crazy different flavors and ingredients, constantly competing to make them bigger and better. Well, there's a drink that's never getting bigger and better, never changes its label, and is heavily subsidized by the government. You guessed it, it's milk. School lunch milk. Who are they competing against? Nobody. The government subsidizes the milk farmers and the milk producers. They get the government contract, they get the subsidy, and they never change. Same milk, same labeling. Now imagine if milk was not subsidized and you went into the lunch line and you had to pick different milks and you had to pay for different milks. Those milk companies would compete for your money or your vote. They would change. You would see all kinds of crazy milk labeling. And we would have more flavors than strawberry, chocolate, and white. We would have orange milk. All right, enough of that. So a free market economy is an efficient economy. When you have to pay, you have to make wise decisions. You're making selections to pick which company to support. Good firms and bad firms, all those different products are constantly competing. You are the ultimate judge. You use your money wisely, and then the bad businesses die. We get an efficient economy. That happens in a free market, free of government intervention, no government subsidies. Very good, very thorough process. Now, again, remember the trade-off is that in a purely free market, there's going to be some people who don't have money and they're going to struggle. There's going to be some people who can't work and they're going to struggle. And so there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. Are you willing to accept that? Some people are going to have terrible lives. Or do you say, well, we've got to modify it? We got to find another solution. We got to give some free stuff. Oh, you're going to give some free stuff? There's going to be consequences to that action as well. So it's wasteful. It's not an efficient economy. It's not as productive as an economy. Now, some subsidies we probably need, but some subsidies we don't need. And the fewer subsidies that we have, the more money in your pocket, and then the money goes to the efficient part of the economy. So it's just finding that balance. But how can we live in a subsidized economy? You can actually use your vote to pay for the subsidies, but make those productive. We'll start with a little case example. Over in Asia, mosquito problems, malaria. The government decided, let's just give everybody free mosquito nets. This will solve the problem. Mosquito nets are cheap. Give them all free mosquito nets. Problem solved. The problem wasn't solved. It was free. It affects you psychologically. You don't value it. People didn't value the nets. They actually used the nets to catch fish. They gave them the nets. They didn't use the nets. They used the nets to catch fish because they did not value the nets. It changed them psychologically. So then they decide, hey, what if we just make them pay a quarter? A quarter! Barely anything for this net. Knowing that when you have to pay, you then value the product. They stopped fishing and they started using the nets and malaria went down. Forcing people to pay, even if it is just a little, fights that psychological battle. People use things differently. They're less wasteful. It worked here. Can it work here? What about reduced lunch? Rather than give people a completely free lunch, make them pay a quarter. Make them pay a little bit of money. Skin in the game. Again, psychologically, it's not completely free. You had to pay a little bit for this. You actually had to pull money out of your pocket and pay a little bit today to buy that meal. You view that meal differently. You approach that meal differently. You are going to be less wasteful. You're going to use what you consume. You may even consume less. If you have to pay up, maybe you don't buy as much. Either way, we're getting more bang for our buck calorie-wise. We're getting a more efficient economy. It doesn't completely solve the problem. It is not a panacea, but it does lower the cost somewhat. And when we take that reduced lunch and we apply it to all the schools across the state and all the schools across the nation, those small little savings add up. And if you do these little things across all the government programs and all the government subsidies, a little belt tightening, it's not completely free. You can save a lot of money. You can save taxpayers a lot of money by just simply going with a reduced lunch or finding ways to operate more efficiently. And if that doesn't mean you have to reinvent the wheel. In a lot of these cases in government subsidies and programs, you don't simply just have to reinvent the wheel, come up with a whole new system. You just have to find a way that it's not completely free stuff. And if we do that, if we become a little bit more efficient, we can lower taxes. That means you're going to have more money in your pocket so that you can use money in the efficient, productive economy, and the economy grows. And even if we don't lower taxes, the government saves money and spend this money on different programs, hopefully productive programs, but either way, they could build roads, bridges, dams, schools, hire teachers, firefighters, policemen, you name it. But it worked in the mosquito example, and it does work for the reduced lunch example. Give it a try. Let's go further with this idea and explain it with the healthcare, because that's another government subsidy. A lot of people vote to get a political party that will give them free healthcare. You don't want to pay at the doctor. It's expensive. I want to use my vote for universal healthcare. So let's boil this one down. And let's look at an example of, let's say you're sick. All right, should I go to the doctor? Well, it's going to cost you money. Well, rather than going to the doctor, you say, I'll just stay home, get some rest, take some medicine, I'll be fine. Again, if it were free, what would you do? But since you have to pay to visit the doctor, it affects you psychologically. You operate differently. You make different decisions. And it's not just an individual micro example. You can expand that to the macro level and say, well, if millions of people do this, it has huge effects. There's a huge difference on our healthcare system. If you have to pay a little bit, they're going to use the system a little less, and maybe that makes the system operate a little better. So if we look at an all-free society, no-free society, and the all-free, where everyone gets free healthcare. You've used your vote for universal healthcare. Everybody gets it free. No one's got to pay. All right, cool, great, it's awesome. Well, you overconsume when it's free. You're going to go to the hospital more often than not, right? In this example, if it were free, let's go to the doctor. Do you really need to go to the doctor? Now take that to thousands of millions of people. Everybody's going to the doctor. That's not a good situation. Some people need to stay home so we don't flood the doctor's office. But if it's free, you might as well go see the doctor. And everyone's going to operate that way. And even if everyone doesn't, many will. And that is going to overflood our healthcare system if you were to give everyone free healthcare. How would doctors and nurses operate if their rooms were filled? How would the healthcare benefits turn out? If doctors are overwhelmed, they can't give you the treatment that you necessarily need or deserve, and we could have more deaths if we gave everyone free. Now, this could be an exaggeration, but when we look at it psychologically, we can see this playing out. And you use that vote for that free stuff to be that winner, to create that inefficient economy. And not only is it inefficient, it could have ramifications on the healthcare system and our lives. And the politicians know this. And they keep playing the game. Vote for me, I give you the free stuff. And you keep playing this, even though you need to understand the consequences of your democracy and your vote. It's very important. Very important. So we use our votes wisely. And we don't use them simply to destroy our economy and destroy our healthcare system. Let's go even further. If everything is free and everyone gets it, how do we decide who gets it? Everyone's showing up to the doctor. Who gets the procedure? Who gets to go first? Not only will there be literally big lines, but how do we select who gets the services first? It's going to be simply, I showed up at 12 a.m. like it's Black Friday, so I get to go in first? Or do we pick based on disease? Does the government do the eeny, meeny, miny, mo? Who decides who gets what? Who decides when you get that surgery? How do we make those decisions? Who makes those decisions? So then again, okay, well, I'm just going to have to vote for a guy that's going to decide who gets health care when, and hopefully that person that I elect is going to pick the procedures that I'm going to need. Who goes to the front of the line? Who goes to the back of the line? It's going to be based on age, race, gender. It's going to be based on disease. How do we do that? It's pretty simple over here. Now, a lot of people say it's not fair how we make selections. But when you got to pay out, it's pretty simple. If you got money, you get what you want. If you got money, you get your surgery. If you don't, back of the line. If you have the money to purchase it, you get it. That's how it works. No one outside makes the decision. There is no one over top of us making decisions for us. Our lives are not in their hands. Your life is in your hand. If you got the money, you get what you need. If you need a special operation, you pay for it. But some people, again, we have to find somewhere to be in the middle. Now, there are also unintended consequences to these subsidies. Let's go one step further, one more conversation. No such thing as free lunch. There's always costs. Unintended consequences, the things that you did not think were going to happen. Students, we're talking about the FDIC the other day in a very favorable manner, and it is a very favorable program subsidized by the government. Most people vote for this with their vote for the government like it. But again, there is always trade-offs. And even the FDIC can be seen in an interesting way. You put your money in the bank. Cool. Awesome. What happens if that bank goes out of business? Oh, your money's gone. No. You are insured for free by the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. If you put up to $250,000 in the bank, that money will come back to you. The government subsidizes the bank. The government subsidizes you. This is a way to get you to feel comfortable about putting your money in the bank, to feel secure in the bank, up to $250,000. Even if that bank fails, your money does not disappear. The FDIC will come out and cover you up to $250,000. It's insurance on your deposit. Makes you feel safe. Seems like a great program. Everybody wants to vote for that program. No problems with that program whatsoever. $250 supported. Now, how do banks operate? They take your money, they loan it out to people. No big deal, right? Okay, well, banks are clever. People are clever. Government subsidies affect people in different ways. There are trade-offs to every solution. People didn't want to put their money in the bank, so the government insured it. Solution. What is the trade-off? What are the consequences? What might happen? So you get money now, right? Well, bankers are clever. They know that every deposit is backed up to $250,000 that they're not on the hook for. Bankers typically loan out money to wise investors. They're very strategic and smart about how they lend money. They want to make sure they don't go under. They want to make sure that people are able to pay it back. They don't want risky borrowers. So they reject a lot of people. That's money that they could be making. Every time they don't make a loan, that's less interest. But they have to reject some people because they're risky, won't pay it back, could jeopardize the bank, could jeopardize your money. But they don't necessarily have to worry about your money because they thought about this, right? They are basically receiving free insurance as well, up to $250,000 that they can gamble with that they don't have to pay back. For everybody that deposits, they can go up to $250,000 that they can loan out to risky people. And if those people don't pay it back and bad things happen, it's okay because the government's going to slide in and take care of you and your $250,000. So at the end of the day, what this freebie insurance has done is to not just affect your behavior, which is good. It makes you feel safe and you can put your money in the bank, but it also affects the behavior and habits of the banker. He now can make more risky investments. He can operate differently because he knows that he has freebie insurance. And in doing so, risky investments could kill the economy. So the FDIC, it's a solution to a problem, but there are trade-offs. And that trade-off is it could list risky investment that ultimately destroys the economy. The one thing the FDIC is trying to prevent. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. Oh, rock and roll.